for giving us an opportunity to showcase the things that we do for you all. Thank you.
One moment. Anyone have any questions or comments? No. And I will tell you, we really do appreciate all the work and the efforts. I've been out. I've seen you everywhere. I think most of our board members have been out and seen. As you move around this community, let us encourage you. Don't forget Wade, Stedman, Falcon out there, and Grays Creek to have some of those meetings in the county. I see Smith Recreation Center and some of those. I think they too would enjoy seeing and hearing your commission to come out there. But thank you for all you do for this community on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Yes. And I'd like to recognize, I think I saw Brian Tyler come in with the one of the Library Board of Trustees members is here. He's on the back row. Thank you for coming to the meeting tonight. I will go to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move
Ms.
for
Council.
approval.
Well, Ms. Council.
Second.
If I could remove item M, just because it's one thing that we need to do, if we just remove item M for that. But other than that, or you've got any other additions or corrections? So with that, I'd ask for, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
I asked to remove item number M, which is the approval of a proclamation recognizing the celebration of 60 years of services of the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council. One, because they're here, and I wanted to present the proclamation to them as they were here. So if I could get a motion to approve this proclamation, which was in our packet.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and second for the recognition of the proclamation recognizing the celebration of 60 years of service. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
So if I could come down and if I could have Ms. Owens and some members of the Ministerial Council to come forward. It's a whole lot of you all. Y'all can stand up. Come on up, Ms. Owens. Don't stand behind the podium and sit in the seat. Stand right here in the seat. Stand right here. And this is a proclamation on behalf of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners, and I thought it was important that we do this because it's 60 years and the amount of service that this organization has given to this community. It was organized in 1957 under the leadership of Dr. Aaron Johnson to be a stabilizing but active voice during the turbulence of the early civil rights movement. And the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council always sought to work together with all, regardless of race, creed, or socioeconomic status, by promoting unity in the community. And the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council carries a legacy of heritage, history, and a tradition of service, and under the leadership of various boards over the years, has tried to remain true to its founding principles, particularly in the service to the community. And the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council has always promoted the belief that we are better together, which eventually became the organization's motto. And based upon its heritage and tradition of service, the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council continues to work and serve within the community with a long record of giving back to the community through voter initiatives, disaster relief, individual and group grants, with two areas of special interest being education and the family. And over the past few years, and this is what I really like, the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council has awarded approximately $115,000 in scholarships to local graduating high school students, which would not be possible without the support of faithful sponsors and attendees of the annual Martin Luther King Prayer Breakfast. So now, therefore, the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners hereby joins the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council in celebrating its 60 years of service and acknowledge all of its accomplishments to promote unity in the Cumberland County community, adopted this 18th day of September 2017, signed by Glenn B. Adams, Chairman, Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. Thank you. Yeah, come on this way. You take a picture while you're on the
Ready. 62. Congratulations, partner. I'm younger than he is. Partner. Thank you. God bless you. Come on, dude. That's exactly right. One of our top students. Effective teacher training. God bless you. Good to see you. Hey, partner. Yes, sir. Hey, Lancaster, God bless Hey, you ready to get back to work? I'm talking about Mary. Thanks. Okay. All right.
And we'll give Miss Mary Owens, who is the president of the Ministerial Council, just a half second or two to say a word.
And that
Go
will
ahead.
be all.
She's
Thank
a
you
preacher, so you
much.
got to be careful with those preachers.
That is true. But thank you all to the county commissioners. We do appreciate this. We have been here for 60 years. I mean, not from the beginning, obviously, but we are appreciative of what you've done tonight, and we do love Cumberland County. For those who often come to the MLK breakfast, you will hear my tenure, my mantra is, and what we push is the beloved community. Because until we become that community that can love together, I may not agree with you, Chairman Adams, I may not agree with you, Brother Moose, but at the end of the day, we all come back to the same community. And I pray and we stress and move forward that one day Fayetteville, North Carolina will be the ideal city that represents what the beloved community means. May God bless you and may He ever smile upon you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all. We'll now go to our public hearings. I'll call on County Manager Amy Cannon to explain the procedure.
Yes, sir. We'll start, Mr. Chairman, with our uncontested rezoning cases this evening. And in the event we do hold a hearing, the arguments by the proponents and opponents shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes for each side. If there is no group representative, each speaker shall be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes until the 10-minute time limit is attained. The rebuttals will only be permitted at the discretion of the chairman with a maximum of 1 3-minute presentation by each side. The first item is case P15-31.
Yes, ma'am. This is the rezoning of just about 3/4 of an acre from R10 residential to O&IP. It's consistent with all relevant plans. There was no opposition, and the planning board voted unanimous for approval. I believe there's no opposition tonight.
I'll open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers?
No speakers.
I will close the public hearing. Are there any questions or discussions from members of the board? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll do it. Okay.
Commissioner Lancaster.
Move to find the request for rezoning consistent with the 2030 Vision Growth Plan and any other applicable land use reasonable and in the public interest for the reasons stated in the recommendations of the planning staff.
Second.
Any questions? It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous?
The next case is case P17-31. Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am, this is the rezoning of 23 acres from M2 heavy industrial to R40 residential. There was no opposition to the planning board. It is consistent with relevant plans as well as the proposed Vander plan you're going to see tonight. And planning board approved this unanimously.
We're going to go ahead and finish this one out, but I think we got to go back because I don't think I took the second motion in the last one. Thank you. Thank you. So this is case P1731. So I will open the public hearing. Are there any speakers?
We have no speakers.
I will close the public hearings. Are there any questions or comments?
Just briefly.
Commissioner Booth.
Yeah, from when it was M2, is this still the same owner? Or has it changed hands because it's gone from heavy industrial to residential?
I don't know if it's the same owner that
Okay.
originally.
Yeah.
There's sewer running past this because it's run to Morty Pride.
Okay.
And it is, a lot of it's wet. So I don't think it was seen as a viable M2 site.
Wow.
So it probably is a different owner, but I can't say for sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fairclough.
I was gonna make the motion, but I'm not sure I got the right language. Correct me if I'm.
Well, let me ask you, Commissioner Keefe, did you have a question or are you going to come?
I did.
And then I'll go back to Mr. Fairclough.
Mr. Lloyd, this is in accordance with the land use plan, but there doesn't seem to be any more R40 around this area. Matter of fact, it's all pretty industrial or agricultural. And if it is wet, do you know how much of the property is 23 acres? I mean, you could put 88 houses, well, probably not 88, but you could put 50 houses in there. Is some of these, it seems to be a very industrial area. What was the thought process of going to a residential type environment?
Well, the thought was, and again, the proposed Vander plan, he can reiterate or expound upon it, that the area wasn't a viable heavy industrial area at this point. Yes, it does have sewer, but there is no water availability. And because of the nature of the soils, it felt like it was better to go back residential. That was the thought process.
Without water?
Well, you can go R40 without public water.
Yep.
You can't go RR.
Okay.
You good?
All right.
Commissioner Fairclough.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. This time, I would move that we find the request for rezoning consistent with the 2030 Growth Vision Plan and any other applicable land use plan, reasonable and in the public interest for the reasons stated in the recommendations of the planning staff. And should I add to that planning board? Should that be added to that, or just keep it with planning staff? That's the question I have. Somebody.
Either way is appropriate because it was the recommendation of both. Is that correct, Tom?
Right.
Okay, then I'll leave it at staff.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous?
And I'll, Commissioner Fairclough from the second.
Okay, this time I would move that we would approve the request for the, I'm sorry, I'm wrong motion. We move to approve the request for R40 residential zoning.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous?
And if we can go back to case P1531, Commissioner Lancaster made the first motion to approve. And I was moving so fast, I forgot to do the second motion. So if we could do the second motion, that'll clean that up.
I cleaned it up.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That was seconded. That first motion was seconded by Commissioner Council and was voted on. So you
Right,
just have a second
so
motion.
just the second motion.
Okay. In the case of P15-31, move to approve the request for the plan office zoning.
Second.
All those in favor?
Unanimous?
Our final case is case P17-36.
Yes, ma'am, this is 2 acres rezone request from A1 to R40. Uh, There was no opposition, it's consistent with the plans, it's to move one more unit on the property. And there was no opposition, the planning board recommended this unanimously.
I will open the public hearing. Are there any speakers, Madam Clerk?
We have no speakers.
I will close the public hearing. Does anybody have any questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I take the first motion, Mr. Chair. Move to find the request for rezoning consistent with the 2030 Growth Vision Plan and any other applicable land use plan, reasonable in the public interest for the reasons stated in the recommendations of the planning staff.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Second motion, to move to approve the request for R40A residential zoning.
I second the motion.
Been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lord. Thank you so very much. We've got a public hearing on the Vanda Area Land Use Plan. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to present Mr. Trey Smith of our Comprehensive Planning Department.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Before I get started, I'd like to briefly introduce some of our staff. We've had turnover lately in the last year. Just quickly, our senior planner, Jennifer Openlander, Aaron Barnes, he started in February, and Jamie Melton, she started today.
Oh. Welcome.
She's been with planning inspections for 2 years, but in our section.
All three of you, welcome so much.
The Vanda Area Land Use Study Area is generally located to the north of the Cape Fear River, to the south of Highway 24, to the east of the city limits of Fayetteville, and to the west of the town of Stedman. That'll click right here. The plan is a larger effort by the Joint Planning Board to provide detailed land use plans for each section of the county. The Vanda area is one of the few remaining areas without a detailed plan. It's just set right in there, and currently there is no adopted plan for that area. The only remaining areas of the county without a plan are this white area you see in here, north and around Stedman and just to the east of Eastover. The public input portion of the plan began with a kickoff meeting held in November of 2016. All property owners of record received a mailed notice. There was approximately 1,800 sent out. At the kickoff meeting, a committee was formed, and through December 12th through June 1st, they met to help the planning staff come up with goals, recommendations, and the future land use map. The plan consists of background data, including census information and background maps. These maps, I'm just going to briefly go through some of these. This is the existing land use map for the area. As you notice, you can see most of it is green, which is primarily agricultural. You see some areas scattered in between commercial, some of these intersections, some industrial areas down here just north of Cape Fear River. The next map is the existing zoning map. It's self-explanatory. Agriculture was in green, similar to the last existing land use. Some residential closer as you get closer to the city limits of Fayetteville. And there's commercial and light commercial and industrial interspersed throughout. Yes, sir. Okay, I'm not speaking behind me. This map shows existing and future transportation. There's also a section of the plan that documents some projects that may be in the future, proposed greenways, bikes, trails, and things of that nature. This is the municipal influence area map. If you see the area in red here is the Fayetteville MIA, and the area in blue here is the Stedman MIA. The little area you see there, we also included on that map was portions of the study area that were included the voluntary agricultural district. This is the existing utilities. The blue lines are water lines. The orange colored lines, sewer. And there's an existing Piedmont natural gas line going through there, shown on there as well. This is septic suitability. It appears as if a lot of these soils are severe, which aren't necessarily favorable for septic tanks, but It's just something we go by when we're using, to make some of these future land use map decisions. This is wetlands and floodplain. If you see along the Cape Fear River is the 100-year flood right along in here. And these areas, when we get to it in the future land use map calls for those areas in the 100-year flood to basically be open space conservation, not encouraging development within the 100-year floodplain. Next. Recommendations. The most important section of the plan are the recommendations and the future land use map. I'm going to briefly go through some of these recommendations. There's a lot of pages, and I'm sure you don't want to hear me read all of them. Under open space and parks, number 6 is to identify possible locations for future Cape Fear River access. These recommendations, by the way, were generated through these meetings with the area residents. We formed a committee. The committee ranged between 9 and about 15, depending on the attendance, depending on the weather, day of the week, and things like that. But these were formed by that committee, and just want to keep that in mind as I briefly go through them. Under agriculture and farmland, support the establishment of local farmers market and produce stands within the area. Under residential development, encourage more than one means of ingress and egress in any new residential subdivisions, and encourage connectivity to existing subdivisions within the area. Community appearance, promote programs to clean up existing roadway litter and educate the citizenry of the cost and impact of littering. Under office and commercial, strengthen, number 3 is strengthen existing landscape standards for commercial development. A lot of the residents felt that some of the commercial development in the area could stand to have a few more shrubs, more trees, greenery in the area, and things like that, just to improve the overall appearance of any commercial development. Industrial, it's more of a blanket statement, but in order to retain and promote job growth, support efforts to retain or expand existing industries. Under community facilities and services, number 3 is improve opportunities for physical activity, access to healthy foods, and social connectedness. And let's see, transportation. Number 5 was to improve safety for cyclists by marking lanes and widening and hardening the shoulders on designated bicycle connectors. There was another one. If you notice number 2, that they specifically came with, promote the construction of sidewalks on both sides of the street. But there was specific, also, the main thing that they wanted to reiterate was locate sidewalks from Cedar Creek Road to Slade in the Kinlaw supermarket area near the high school and food line. The residents, committee members were not going to let that stay out of the plan in any way, shape, or form. So I was make sure I pointed that out here at the public presentation. The future land use map. Let me get my clicker back. We've got several versions of this, but the future land use map shown here calls for, as you notice, residential development is primarily located to the west of I-95 in these areas in here, and it calls for a more dense type of residential development as you get closer to the city limits, the interstate, and where there's existing water and sewer and services and things of that nature, or closer to existing utilities. It gets less dense as you go further away, further east, out in here. This green area out here calls for agricultural type uses. This dark green area in here calls for open space and conservation areas. The red area right here calls for more heavy commercial down at these major intersections of I-95 here, with light commercial scattered throughout, mostly these intersections. This is in order to accommodate the types of uses that would prevent someone, just say, from going to get gas or having to go pick up something real quick to accommodate neighborhoods and residents without having to go all the way in the town for those types of uses. Agriculture. This type of residential out here, it gets, like I was saying, it gets less dense type of development as you get further away. It's more of suburban type development that may or may not require a septic tank. I've got these different maps that are showed closer north, south, east, and west. But that's all I've got for you. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. I'm trying to be as brief as possible without holding you here all night going through the whole plan.
Commissioner Booth.
Yeah, you said that the meetings, a lot of these ideas were generated not by just your department or your folks, but by citizen input.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Was it the same citizens showing up at each meeting, or was it somebody from near?
We had a lot of different people come in. We had consistently between 6 and 15 members show up, but they were different at each time. There were 2 or 3 that were there every time. But so there was, in a whole, there was probably 25 or so different people. The people you see listed in the committee members, ones that at least attended one time.
Okay.
But
And my second question was about, we're hearing now and on charts and it's everywhere in all the cities now about walkability.
right.
And it's a whole lot easier to put the sidewalks and the bicycle paths and everything in while you're doing it than to come back in and start drawing lanes on already skinny roads or already up in someone's yard.
Yes, sir.
It's just a little strip of concrete, but it makes all the difference.
Does, and that's the planning lingo. I think topic these days is walkability, connectivity, and things of that nature.
Great report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Keefe.
Thank you. I have a little, I'm a bit surprised that the recommendation came through to such dense housing of residential in some of these areas. And I heard your explanation about it being close to the city and everything else. But, I mean, there's still, the amenities are out there, and they're, over on the left side, we're talking about 6 units per acre. I mean, that's higher than R10. That's getting into multifamily housing. And you also have some areas of multifamily. I'm just surprised a lot of people go out in that area for a rural environment.
Right. We explained to them that this is used as a guideline, and that if somebody went in there and bought up 10 acres, 15 acres here, they could still use it for whatever purpose they wanted to use it for. They could put one residence on there if they chose to. However, if they owned that same land and they were looking at it from an investment perspective, that same person could go in there and put 6,000, a developer, 7,000 square foot lot on there, if the county commissioners deemed it rezoned it using this as a guide. The committee had no problems with it. We looked over this at 2 different meetings, and they went over it pretty much parcel by parcel, and we're in good agreement with it. There was no but one that's particularly disagreed with any of the recommendations. This is where it came from, was those meetings.
My only point is that approval of this has ramifications down the road.
Yes, sir.
We just heard on 2 cases that said this is in the land use plan, which we may very well be hearing this, you know, in a year or 2 years or 3 years down. Right. I am curious, was there any of the members that were on there, were they primarily from one area or the other? Did they have any particular relationship with some of this property?
The committee members all own property within the area. They were scattered throughout, and they addressed their individual property concerns, but they were also concerned about, say, their neighbor has land here and there, and they were talking about they're trying to represent other people as well. At the initial kickoff meeting back in November, we showed this area. We didn't show the future land use map, but anyone that had major concerns of like that we offered them the opportunity at that point in time as well to come and say, hey, well, I own this property here. I want to make sure it's this going forward. I intend to use this 10, 15 years going forward. And this is the map that was generated from all that information. We took all that into account and applied current planning principles to that as to deemed as